everyone, Victory Reviews here, and Nintendo has just released a trailer for Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. A prequel title to Breath of the Wild is releasing on Switch in November 20th of this year. Not only that, but we'll get more information on this title on the 26th of this month. With all that said, let's give a breakdown of this trailer so we can better understand what this game has to offer. The first thing I noticed when I see this trailer is that there's actually some voice acting from a character that I'm not sure who it is, but if it had to be my guess, I would say that's Impa retelling the stories of what happened 100 years ago. We can also notice while this narration is taking place, a tapestry is being revealed to us of Calamity Ganon, which definitely sets the mood of the game. Going further, we see flashbacks of the ancient automatons wreaking havoc on Castletown. But what makes this even more interesting is after that, it is spliced with footage that we have never seen before. We get a shot of the castle consumed by darkness by Calamity's evil. However, this is contrasted by the King of Hyrule telling us that we need to know the story of what happened 100 years before the Calamity. And with that, the castle completely changes and rewinds through time, going to the present of the Great War between Hyrule and Calamity Ganon's forces. Next, we have a very determined Link raising his sword skyward, ready to fight. However, you can notice here that this isn't his master sword, this isn't his rightful armor, it's not the champion's tunic, or even the regular Link tunic that we're used to. This is full knight's armor that you're able to wear in Breath of the Wild, but this seems to be his default outfit when we start the game. To me, this says that this Link hasn't gone through his trials and tribulations to become Zelda's guide. He is not yet with Zelda being her knight in shining armor quite yet. Now, I'm not saying that Link has to have the Master Sword in order to do that. However, I am saying that since this is a prequel story, I really do think we're going to start at the beginning of Link and Zelda's relationship and possibly get some insight on why Link is so troubled. They say it's some type of PTSD in Zelda's diaries, but maybe we can get some more insight on that and get a deeper relationship between Link and Zelda. Following this is Zelda walking through a hallway feeling uncertain, possibly about to send her own knights into war with her father. And of course, any ruler having to do that would be very troubling, but it's just something you'd have to do as a ruler, and I think that's a part of her journey that she just hasn't gotten through yet. She doesn't know how to be a leader quite yet, so this is why we're starting off so soon in her journey so we can see her grow. Following Zelda's uncertainty after she basks in the light of Hyrule comes a huge sweeping shot of all of her knights and Link fighting on the battlefield with explosions going away, even covering the screen, and then we get to see a moblin attack several knights and including its own bokoblins, and we see it shouting and that Link is prepared to fight it. Is this Link's first encounter with this type of moblin, or is it just one of those things to show strength that he's ready to go into the fight all in? Something interesting that I'd actually like to point out in this scene is that we don't start in the Great Plateau. I think we don't even start in Castletown. This seems to be starting in a place a bit outside of Castletown where the champions were knighted as champions. This also brings me to another thought. We're going to be able to see how life was before the Calamity, because in Breath of the Wild, life was pretty much desolate. There were so many ruins of other towns with very few cities and towns surviving at a very small scale. So in this game, we'll be able to experience the full cities and towns how they used to be before the Calamity had ruined them. We'll get to see new character relationships that Link has built, like Revali, Mipha, Daruk, all these characters firsthand, and this is something that I severely wanted in the Breath of the Wild DLC. More interaction with champions, having playable champions, just something more of the past, and it seems like Nintendo has delivered us with a brand new gaming experience on those fronts. Supporting what I said are two snippets of interactions between Zelda, Mipha, Link, and Revali. First, let's cover Zelda and Mipha. Now, as we know, Zelda has a thing for Link romantically. It's very implied at the end of Breath of the Wild, but we also know for a fact that Mipha was very head over heels for Link, and it's explicitly stated throughout the entire game of Breath of the Wild. So it's very interesting to think, what would the relationship between Mipha and Zelda be like? Would there be pettiness between them? Or would we be shown a friendship that completely ignores that aspect of their lives? Personally, I would like to see some tension between them over Link. However, I don't think that's Nintendo's route to take. Nintendo usually ignores romantic tension in their first party titles. However, Breath of the Wild is a game of change, so hopefully this prequel brings some change into the story. The next snippet we see is Revali aiming his bow right at Link as if both of them were just fighting. If you notice, Link is just getting through a sword thrust that Revali must have dodged. Now, what type of fight is this? Is this like they're trying to fight to the death because of a misunderstanding? Or is this more of Revali just trying to prove that he's a better fighter than Link? Now, that is something Revali would do just to prove his dominance to Link, to show how superior he is. However, we know that Link in the end is a better fighter, and that really drives a wedge between them. My theory is that we'll experience that headbutting relationship from the very beginning as well. This is going to be the very formation of the champions. The champions have not united yet, but in this game, I believe we will experience that, and that is why we see Revali and Link at odds here. Following that, we see Link use his Sheikah Plate to summon bombs to throw at a mob of enemies. But here's my question. Link has the Sheikah Plate? I thought this was more of a Zelda item in the flashbacks, and it was a gift to give him after the 100 years. So why does he have it now, but also later in the trailer, Zelda also has the Sheikah Plate to use? I guess we'll get there when we get there, but that's still an interesting thing to note. Next we have Zelda looking up in horror as a giant spire erects and is ejecting these guardian creatures. And this leads me to think, weren't the guardians created by Hylians to use in battle? And wasn't it Ganon's mind control that brought them on his side? So why are they coming out of the spire as if Ganon is creating them? Has he found a way to replicate the process? Is this what they meant when they said the automatons turned on them? But this is definitely strange that Ganon seemingly has an unending supply of these guardians to unleash upon Hyrule, and probably this is why Hyrule lost the Great War. As you can see, King Rome doesn't seem too happy about the situations at hand, so he looks like he's having a conversation between himself, Zelda, Link, and a girl kneeling right next to Link, who I believe is Impa. Just think about it. Impa is now an old lady, but 100 years before Breath of the Wild, of course she'd be a young woman who's defending her kingdom, and that seems to be who that is right there. That is a younger Impa ready to fight alongside you. And that leads me to believe that not only will the champions be characters, but also Impa and other characters that we've seen along the way. Just think about playing as Kid Sidon. I can also believe that the leaders of each tribe will join in on the fight. The king of the Zora domain, the Goron chief, the Dekus, and even... Bird up! Hello! I also believe, because of the presence of King Rome no longer being a ghost, that he will also join in the battle. Now, by far the most interesting part of the trailer comes up, and it is Zelda fighting at Zora's domain against that Lionel. Now, as we know, Lionel's one of the biggest bosses in Breath of the Wild, so to see Zelda fighting one is definitely a sight to behold. But the interesting point here that I pointed out earlier was that she's using the Sheikah Slate to battle. She uses a time stop slate on him to fight, but as we know, Link also has a Sheikah Slate to throw bombs. So how are there two Sheikah Slates, but only one in existence that we know of? That's something to look out for. I definitely want to see an explanation for that, or maybe it's just one of those small things that really don't matter and I'm just kind of nitpicking at it. But I do find this as an interesting part of the trailer, because after we see Zelda fight, we start seeing the champions fight. We see Mipha do Zora moves like in Hyrule Warriors, making that huge plume of water. We have Daruk doing this cool finisher move with his hammer. It just makes me think these characters are going to have fully fleshed out movesets. What if one of them comes into the Smash roster? Now, maybe that's wishful thinking, but it is possible. Another idea I'd like to point out is that since Mipha is in the game at this time period, we will see Kid Sidon in the game as well. So seeing him as a kid will be a treat, to say the least. And also we'll see other Ritos in the game, as well as all the other Zora that remembered who Link was, and possibly Gorons who survived the 100 years. These creatures survive way longer than Hylians, so perhaps there'll be some NPCs from Breath of the Wild that we'll see in this Calamity age. One champion that interests me the most out of all of them is Urbosa from the Gerudo tribe. The Gerudo are seen fighting the evil Yiga clan, and this makes me think, Is this the beginning of the Yiga clan? Will we see the uprising of the Yiga? And will there be a new leader leading them, or will we see that one wacky dude from Breath of the Wild? Having the Yiga be in this game is definitely interesting because we get to see their possible formation and maybe hints at Breath of the Wild 2 and how they try to revive Ganon. After an adventure-style lineup, we see a big look at Daruk's guardian screaming to the skies, and this makes me think, are we going to be fighting these guardians, or are we going to be able to use them in the fight until we have to lead each champion to their death? As we know, these guardians kill our champions because of these blight creatures that Ganon summons upon them. It's just a dark thought thinking that each champion will fall at the hands of something that we might use throughout the game to give us the upper hand. If you notice, as these quick shots fly by, we are seeing these champions inside the Guardians, I believe. I believe Mipha, Revali, Daruk, and Urbosa are inside their Guardians, and that they're about to fight the Blights and fall at their hand. And I think these sort snippets really show that and just set the tone of how dark this game will be. And closing up the trailer, we see Calamity Ganon crying to the skies with a title drop of Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. This being a prequel to Breath of the Wild is something that is so amazing. I am honestly so excited for it.
I must protect everyone.
Just wow. In the trailer, we see Zelda sacrificing 100 years of her life just to prevent Calamity Ganon from destroying everything. This game will be an absolute treat. Well, that does it for the analysis portion of the video, but now I'd like to go off some of my own thoughts. For one, on this splash screen right here, there's this small little robot guy, and part of me is saying this is going to be some weird, wacky sidekick who's going to give off one-liners and then tell you every hour that you have to take a break. Hopefully not. There's just something in my head saying that it might be that. But in reality, it's probably a machine built by Zelda that'll help Link throughout the tutorial or help her fight in battle. Overall, I am very excited for this game's release, and it seems like Nintendo's 2020 is starting to shape up even if it's at its tail end. Now, a new update will be released on the 26th of this month, so that's very exciting and something to look forward to. But my thoughts on this game is that it is going to be very interesting for the Zelda series. I think this is truly going to kick off the Zelda 35th anniversary. Now, although it's not the 35th anniversary yet, this is going to be a great way to kick it off, and to continue it onward, I hope we get more Zelda content. I can expect DLC for this game within the next year, as well as new game releases, one being Breath of the Wild 2. I believe this game is going to hype up the release of Breath of the Wild 2. Why else would they release it before the anniversary? Because Breath of the Wild 2 is that anniversary title. And because it'll be such a monumental deal for the Switch, it'll also be the holiday title at the end of 2021. At least that's what I believe. Honestly, there is so much more to think and theorize. I just think that this game will do so much for the brand of Legend of Zelda as well as Hyrule Warriors. Now, if there was to be another Warriors style game, a game I want the most would be Kirby Dream Land Warriors. I think it has such potential to have a bunch of Kirby characters fighting hordes of other characters. I just think it'd be such a fun time. The Warriors brand has a lot of potential outside of Hyrule. It has a lot of potential outside of Fire Emblem. I think it can spread out a long ways. That's it for this video, and please give it a like if you enjoyed it, or a dislike if you didn't enjoy it. As always, leave a comment down below on what you think of Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild Warriors Age of Calamity 2. Please, just let me know what you think in the comments. Tell me what you want the most, and please, don't forget to keep on keeping on. See you later.